You didn't decide to spend more money today. In fact, you probably didn't make any big financial decisions at all. And yet, by the end of the month, your money will end up exactly where it usually does. That doesn't happen because of one big mistake. It happens because of a pattern, a habit. And habits, it turns out, might explain more about your financial life than your actual income ever could. Picture a man named Daniel. Not a real person, but someone you have probably met a version of. Daniel earned $60,000 a year. By the end of every month, there is nothing left. Not because he is reckless, not because he is lazy. He pays his bills on time. He works hard. He just never seems to get ahead. Now picture a woman named Marisol. She earns the exact same salary, same city, same cost of living. But Marisol has $11,000 saved, a small index fund growing quietly in the background, and almost no stress when an unexpected expense shows up. Same income, completely different outcomes. Why? For decades, economists assumed the answer was simple. People who save more must simply earn more or want less. But that explanation falls apart the moment you look closely at real households. Income predicts almost nothing about long-term financial security. Behavior does. This is where the story gets interesting. In the 1990s, two economists, Richard Thaler and Hersh Sheffrin, proposed something that sounded strange to traditional economics. They suggested that people do not actually have one single rational self managing their money. Instead, you have two competing selves living inside you, a planner who wants to save for the future, and a doer who wants to feel good right now. Most financial decisions are not battles of logic. They are battles between these two selves. And the doer wins far more often than people like to admit. Think about Daniel again. Every time he gets paid, the doer takes over first. A new pair of shoes, dinner out, because he deserves it after a long week, a subscription he forgot he had. None of these decisions feel irrational in the moment. Each one feels small, reasonable, earned. But here is the strange part. The amount of money is not actually the problem. The order of decisions is. Marisol does something almost invisible. The moment her paycheck arrives, a fixed percentage moves automatically into savings and investments before she ever sees it touch her checking account. She is not more disciplined than Daniel. She removed the moment where discipline was even required. This single shift has a name in behavioral economics. It is called a default, and it might be one of the most quietly powerful forces in modern personal finance. Richard Thaler, alongside economist Shlomo Benartzi, studied this exact mechanism in a now famous retirement savings program called Save More Tomorrow. Workers were asked not to save more starting today, but to commit to saving more out of their future raises automatically before they ever felt the money in their hands. Participation in this kind of automatic system was dramatically higher than when employees were simply asked to save more on their own willpower. Saving rates among participants rose significantly over just a few years, not because anyone became more motivated, but because the default decision changed. The poor habit was never spending money. The habit was deciding every single day, all over again, what to do with money the moment it appeared. This is the part most people never notice about their own financial life. You think you are choosing not to save. In reality, you are simply choosing later than someone like Marisol. And later, when willpower has already been spent on 100 smaller decisions throughout the day, is a much weaker position to choose from. Psychologists have a term for this too. Decision fatigue. The more decisions your brain makes in a day, the worse those decisions tend to become by the end of it. Daniel is not choosing badly because he lacks intelligence or care. He is choosing badly because he is choosing constantly, exhausted, in the moment, with no system protecting him from himself. Now here is where the story turns. 1 year later, Daniel hears about Marisol's setup. He feels a flicker of something close to shame. He assumes she must simply earn more, or care more, or sacrifice more. So he asks her directly. Her answer surprises him. She tells him she has never once felt like she was sacrificing anything. She does not consciously resist the urge to spend. She simply never sees the money in the first place. Daniel goes home and does something small. He sets up one automatic transfer, $50, the same day his paycheck lands, into a separate account he rarely looks at. It feels uncomfortable at first, almost like losing something. But by the third month, he stops noticing it is missing. This is not a story about Daniel suddenly becoming wealthy. $50 a month will not change his life overnight, but it changes something more important than the number itself. It changes the architecture of his decisions. The planner inside him no longer has to fight the doer every single day. The fight only has to happen once. Economist Milton Friedman spent much of his career studying how people relate to income differently, depending on whether it feels permanent or temporary. His permanent income hypothesis suggested that people tend to adjust their spending toward what feels like their normal, expected lifestyle, regardless of small fluctuations in actual cash flow. In other words, if Daniel sees more money sitting in his checking account, his brain quietly recalibrates what normal spending looks like. The money does not feel saved, it feels available. And available money, to a tired brain making constant decisions, tends to get spent. This is why being poor, in many cases, is not about how much money enters someone's life. It is about how visible that money remains for spending decisions, and how many decisions stand between earning it and protecting it. Wealthier outcomes are rarely built from extraordinary financial intelligence. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in modern history, has said for decades that his approach was never about brilliant predictions. It was about consistent, almost boring behavior, repeated for an uncomfortably long time. Buy quality assets. Hold them. Avoid emotional reactions to short-term noise. Let time and compounding handle the rest. Compounding rewards habits, not moments of genius. A habit repeated for 30 years will almost always outperform a brilliant decision made once. This brings us back to the real question hiding underneath all of this. If being poor is mostly a number, then there is very little Daniel or anyone like him could realistically do about it without a raise. But if being poor is largely a pattern, repeated daily, often invisibly, then the door opens, not to instant wealth, to something steadier. Possibility. Think about your own day for a moment. How many financial decisions have you already made today without noticing? A coffee, a delivery fee, a subscription renewing quietly in the background. None of these choices feel significant individually. That is exactly the point. They were never designed to feel significant. They were designed to feel automatic. The same can be true in the other direction. You do not need extraordinary discipline to change your financial trajectory. You need fewer decisions standing between your income and your future self. One automatic transfer, one default switched in your favor, one moment of friction removed from saving, and one moment of friction added to spending. Robert Shiller, the economist known for his research into market psychology, often points out that financial behavior is shaped far more by social environment and emotional habit than by spreadsheets and interest rates. People do not manage money in a vacuum. They manage it the way the people and systems around them have trained them to, often without realizing it. So perhaps the real question was never about Daniel or Marisol or anyone else's income at all. Perhaps the real question is this: what decision happens automatically in your life the moment money arrives? Is it a decision you chose carefully, once, with a clear head? Or is it a decision you are quietly making over and over again, every single day, exhausted, without ever noticing you are making it at all? You checked your bank account again this morning. Nothing had changed since last night, but maybe the number was never really the thing worth watching. Maybe the habit was,